Captain Sarah Chen stood at the command center of Stellar Guard Station Delta, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The massive screen showed 3 distinct clusters of human colonies, each represented by a pulsing blue light. New Eden, the largest settlement with its population of 2 million, shone the brightest. "Captain, we're receiving an emergency transmission from New Eden," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, his fingers dancing across the neural interface. "Governor Williams is requesting immediate communication." The hologram flickered, revealing the face of Alexandra Williams. Her usually composed features were tight with concern. "Captain Chen, our long-range sensors have detected quantum signatures. They're unlike anything we've seen before." Sarah's stomach tightened. The Stellar Guard had been monitoring increasing activity from the Kraxan Empire, but they hadn't expected them to venture this far into human space. "Send me the sensor data," she ordered, maintaining the calm demeanor expected of a guard captain. The information streamed across her neural display. The quantum signatures were massive, far larger than any human vessel. As she studied the readings, proximity alarms blared across the station. The space above New Eden tore open in a spectacular display of crystalline light. "By the stars," Rodriguez whispered. 7 Kraxan warships emerged from the quantum rifts. Their hulls, composed of living crystal that adapted and evolved, gleamed like frozen lightning in the starlight. Each vessel was easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleship. This wasn't a border patrol or a show of force. This was an invasion fleet. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Sarah ordered, her mind already racing through emergency protocols. "And patch me through to New Eden's defense grid." But before either action could be completed, the lead Kraxan ship broadcast a message across all frequencies. The translation matrix converted their mathematical language into human speech. "Attention human settlement designated New Eden. We are implementing Containment Protocol 37A. Your species' emotional instability and unpredictable expansion patterns have been deemed a threat to galactic stability. Resistance will only increase the efficiency of our response." Sarah watched in horror as the Kraxan ships moved into attack formation. New Eden's defensive systems, the most advanced humanity had developed, activated automatically. Energy shields shimmed into existence, and defense platforms turned to face the threat. "Governor Williams, begin immediate evacuation procedures," Sarah commanded, but static was her only answer. The Kraxan were blocking communications. The next few minutes became eternal in Sarah's memory. The Kraxan ships didn't so much attack as they simply erased. Their weapons manipulated quantum fields in ways human science barely understood. New Eden's shields, designed to stop energy and kinetic weapons, might as well have been soap bubbles. 2 million lives, gone in moments. But the Kraxan weren't finished. Their fleet split, moving with mathematical precision toward the other colonies. Warning buoys transmitted desperate signals, but the distances were too great for any human fleet to respond in time. Sarah and her crew could only watch as 2 more settlements vanished from their screens. In the aftermath, as emergency signals echoed through space and rescue ships scrambled to search for survivors, the Kraxan broadcast one final message. Containment Protocol 37A completed with 99.98% efficiency. The emotional instability of humanity has been appropriately addressed. The Galactic Council has been notified of this territorial adjustment. Sarah stood motionless, her fists clenched at her sides. Around her, her crew moved in a daze, some crying, others simply staring at the empty spaces on their screens where colonies had once pulsed with life. The neural interface chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from Earth Command. But before Sarah opened the channel, she made a silent promise to the empty space where New Eden had been. The Kraxan thought they understood humanity, thought they could calculate and quantify their response. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. James Martinez pulled his coat tighter as he walked through the underground corridors of the Martian Research Facility Delta. 3 months had passed since the Kraxan attack, and the temperature controls in the facility had been reduced to divert power to the laboratories. Not that anyone complained. Every scientist here had lost someone in the colonies. The salvaged Kraxan technology sat in his lab like a sculpture of frozen lightning, a piece of their crystalline hull roughly the size of a car. James had spent countless hours studying it, along with hundreds of other researchers across the solar system. Earth's official response to the attack had been unexpected. "Have you seen the latest Galactic Council broadcast?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka asked, falling into step beside him. Her usual energetic demeanor was subdued, matching the facility's atmosphere. James nodded. "Our diplomats formally accepting the Kraxan's territorial adjustment. I watched it live." His jaw tightened. The aliens are celebrating their victory. They reached the lab's main chamber, where the crystalline fragment floated in a containment field. Today's tests involved exposing it to various forms of radiation, hoping to understand its quantum properties. As James initiated the sequence, something caught his eye on the monitoring screen. "Yuki, look at this." He enhanced the display. The quantum field emissions, they're not random. The patterns flowing through the crystal structure reminded him of something, but he couldn't quite place it. Yuki leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "Run it against the pattern recognition database." James input the commands, and the computer began processing. Seconds later, results flashed across the screen. His heart nearly stopped. "That's impossible," Yuki whispered. The patterns matched Earth's aurora borealis with a 97% correlation. James's hands flew across the console, pulling up historical data from their study of the Kraxan ships. Every scan, every reading showed the same underlying pattern, one that mirrored natural phenomena on Earth. The Kraxan, with their rigid logical minds, had never noticed. "Get me Captain Chen," James said, his voice trembling with excitement. Now. Hours later, Sarah Chen stood in the lab, watching the data scroll across the screens. She'd aged years in the months since the attack, but there was a spark in her eyes that had been missing. "You're telling me their entire technology base, their quantum drives, their weapons, their communications, they all follow patterns found in nature?" she asked. "Not just nature," James explained. "The patterns are similar to ones we see in music, in art, in dance. The Kraxan use these quantum technologies, but they've never truly understood them. They inherited most of it from an ancient civilization, adapted it through pure mathematics, but missed the underlying principles. And we can use this." Sarah's question carried the weight of millions of lost lives. James nodded slowly. "The Kraxan think in straight lines, in pure logic. But these systems, they're more like rivers than rails. They flow, they dance, they sing. We understand this instinctively because we see beauty in patterns. The Kraxan only see equations." Sarah walked to the crystal fragment, studying its shimmering surface. "How long until we can develop something practical from this?" "That's the best part," Yuki interjected. "We don't need to develop new technology. We just need to speak to their existing systems in a language they understand. A language the Kraxan never learned to speak." "Keep this quiet," Sarah ordered. "Let the Kraxan think we're beaten, grieving, harmless. Let them believe their logic has prevailed over our emotions." She touched the crystal surface gently. "They don't realize that our emotions, our art, our music, the very things they dismiss as weakness, will be their undoing." As if in response to her touch, the crystal pulsed with a soft light, its patterns shifting like the northern lights dancing across an Arctic sky. In that moment, the path to humanity's response became clear. It would not be a war of ships and soldiers, but a symphony that would shake the very foundations of an empire. Dr. Elena Rossi hadn't played her violin since the attack. The instrument sat in its case in her Sydney Opera House office, gathering dust while she pored over quantum physics equations. The magnificent building had been converted into a research facility, its perfect acoustics now serving a different purpose entirely. "The patterns are there," she muttered, staring at the holographic display of Craxon quantum signatures. But we're missing something fundamental. Her office overlooked the harbor, where the morning sun painted the waves in shimmering patterns. She'd been working through the night again, trying to understand why some frequencies affected the salvaged Craxon technology more than others. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Dr. James Martinez entered, carrying fresh data from the Mars facility. "Elena, we've run every mathematical model possible. The results are consistent but incomplete. We can affect their technology, but not control it." Elena stood, stretching tired muscles, when something caught her eye. The sunlight reflecting off the harbor water created interference patterns on her ceiling. They looked eerily similar to the quantum fluctuations in their latest tests. "James," she said slowly, "what if we're thinking about this wrong? We're trying to speak their language. Pure mathematics, pure logic. But what if we need to speak our own?" She walked to her violin case, running her fingers over its worn surface. "In music, we don't just play notes. We play the spaces between notes. The resonance, the harmony, the emotion. They're all part of the same whole." James watched as she opened the case for the first time in months. "What are you suggesting?" Elena lifted the violin, positioning it with practiced grace. "The Craxon technology responds to patterns, yes, but not just any patterns. Natural ones, like the aurora borealis. What's more natural to humans than music?" She began to play Vax Chakan. The notes filled the space, pure and clear in the opera house's perfect acoustics. On the holographic display, the quantum signatures from their test sample began to pulse in rhythm with her music. James rushed to the console, eyes wide. The resonance patterns, they're amplifying. But it's not just matching the notes, it's responding to the emotional content, the artistic interpretation. Elena continued playing, her eyes closed, letting the music flow through her. The quantum signatures danced across the screen, forming complex, beautiful patterns that no mathematical equation could fully describe. "Get Captain Chen," James said to his comm unit. "She needs to see this." Hours later, Sarah Chen stood in the Opera House's main concert hall, watching as a full orchestra played while banks of sensors recorded every nuance of the quantum responses. "So you're telling me," she said, "that we can control their technology, not just with mathematical precision, but with music, with art?" Elena nodded, still holding her violin. The Craxon used these systems like rigid tools, forcing them into logical patterns. But they're meant to flow, to resonate, to dance. Each piece of their technology is like an instrument in an orchestra. They've been playing each one separately when they should be creating the symphony. "Can you weaponize this?" Sarah asked, her voice carrying no emotion. Elena shared a look with James before responding. "Captain, we can do more than weaponize it. We can compose something they'll never expect. Their entire quantum network is like a vast concert hall, waiting for the right performance." Sarah watched as the orchestra began another piece, the quantum pattern swirling in perfect harmony with the music. "How soon can we begin?" "We already have," Elena said, raising her violin once more. "Every test we run teaches their systems to recognize our music, our patterns, our emotions. By the time we're ready to perform our final piece, their entire empire will be tuned to our frequency." The violin's notes soared through the concert hall, and on the monitors, the quantum patterns danced like stars being born. Humanity had found its voice in this conflict, and soon, the galaxy would hear its song. Admiral Chen watched the Craxon representative's crystalline form shimmer in the holographic projection. After 30 years in Earth's Space Force, she learned to hide her emotions well. Today, that skill would be tested like never before. "Your species' acceptance of proper galactic order is logical," the Craxon diplomat stated, its mathematical language translated into flat, emotionless speech. "We will begin establishing oversight protocols in your remaining colonies immediately." "We understand," Admiral Chen replied, her voice carefully modulated to convey submission. "Earth accepts the Craxon Empire's guidance. The words tasted like ash in her mouth, but she maintained her facade. After the transmission ended, she turned to her daughter. Sarah Chen stood at attention, her captain's uniform pristine. Status of Project Harmony. Dr. Rossi's team has synchronized the quantum resonance patterns with every major orchestra on Earth, Sarah reported. The Sydney Opera House has been transmitting test frequencies disguised as routine maintenance checks. The Kraxan haven't noticed anything unusual. Admiral Chen activated the secure holographic display, showing Earth's remaining colonies marked in blue, with red indicators for Kraxan observation posts. And our guests. The Kraxan advisors are exactly where we want them. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They're so focused on monitoring our military installations and spaceports, they haven't paid any attention to our cultural centers. They don't understand why humans still gather to watch orchestras play ancient music. In orbit above Earth, massive Kraxan ships maintain their vigilant watch. Their crystalline hulls caught sunlight like prisms, casting rainbow patterns on the planet below. They never noticed how Earth's defensive satellites have been subtly repositioned over the past months, now aligned with major concert halls and music centers across the globe. Dr. Martinez's latest report, Sarah continued, placing a data crystal on the desk. The Kraxan's quantum network has begun unconsciously syncing with our musical frequencies. Every time they run a routine scan of our systems, they expose more of their network to our influence. Admiral Chen picked up the crystal, studying its shimmer. And they still suspect nothing. Their logic prevents them from seeing it, Sarah explained. To them, music is just organized sound waves. They can't conceive of it as a weapon because they don't understand its emotional resonance. Even their advanced sensors only detect what they're programmed to look for. A junior officer entered with urgent news. The Kraxan Empire had announced plans to establish a permanent governing presence on Earth. They would arrive in force within 1 standard month. Perfect timing, Admiral Chen said after the officer left. Status of the global orchestras. Sarah brought up another display, showing concert halls lit up across Earth's surface. Everything is in position. Dr. Rossi has composed what she calls the Symphony of Liberation. Every orchestra has been practicing their parts separately, appearing to prepare for a global cultural festival celebrating Earth's acceptance of Kraxan guidance. The Kraxan representative actually suggested we continue such festivals, Admiral Chen noted with grim amusement. They believe allowing us these emotional outlets will help us accept their logical governance. She stood, walking to the window overlooking the Pacific. A Kraxan ship passed overhead, its shadow momentarily darkening the room. They think they're watching us grieve, watching us submit. They see our concerts as the last gasps of a defeated species clinging to emotional expression. When do we begin? Sarah asked. Admiral Chen turned back to her daughter, her eyes reflecting the same determination she'd seen in Sarah's since the day of the attack. We let them come. Let them gather their ships above our world, thinking they're here to cement their victory. Then we'll show them why humans never stopped making music. She touched a control, and soft classical music began playing in the office. Above them, the Kraxan ship's quantum field fluctuated slightly, unconsciously syncing with the melody. The Empire's greatest weapons were already dancing to humanity's tune. They just didn't know it yet. The Sydney Opera House gleamed in the morning sun as the Kraxan High Command's delegation took their assigned seats. Alina Rossi watched from backstage as the crystalline beings settled into their observation pods, their forms refracting light across the concert hall. Final sound check complete, James whispered through her earpiece. All global orchestras report ready. Quantum resonance patterns are aligned. Alina lifted her violin, her heart steady despite what was about to unfold. The Kraxan had insisted on attending what they believed was humanity's celebration of their new governance. Over 200 of their ships now orbited Earth, their quantum networks humming with activity. Leaders of the Kraxan Empire. Admiral Chen's voice rang out from the stage. We present Earth's Symphony of Acceptance, performed simultaneously by orchestras across our world. Elena stepped onto the stage, taking her position as concertmaster. The Kraxan representatives sat motionless, their crystalline forms pulsing with what humans had learned to recognize as approval. They thought they were watching a defeated species embrace logic through organized sound. The first notes of Mozart's Requiem filled the air. A traditional choice, the Kraxan thought, appropriate for a species in mourning. But underneath the classical piece, precisely crafted quantum frequencies rode the sound waves. Each note carried coded instructions that had been months in preparation. In orbit, the first Kraxan ship's navigation system began to drift. By the time the orchestra reached the third movement, half the Kraxan fleet had lost precise positional control. Their quantum systems, long attuned to Earth's musical broadcasts, resonated with the symphony. The alien ships began to move in patterns that matched the music's flow. Status report. Admiral Chen vocalized into her neural link. Quantum interference patterns spreading through their network exactly as predicted. Sarah's voice replied from her position in Lunar Command. Their ships are starting to dance. The Kraxan representatives remained unaware, their logical minds processing the music as simple acoustical phenomena. Even as reports of fleet-wide systems fluctuation reached them, they sought mathematical explanations. Elena guided her orchestra through the transition. Mozart's Requiem melted seamlessly into an original composition, the Symphony of Liberation. The piece incorporated mathematical patterns that Dr. Martinez had discovered in the Kraxan's quantum technology, woven together with emotional themes that resonated at their system's core frequencies. In orbit, the Kraxan fleet began to move in perfect harmony with the music. Their crystalline hulls vibrated, creating aurora-like displays across Earth's sky. The Empire's mighty warships transformed into unwitting performers in humanity's greatest concert. Their quantum network is fully compromised, James reported from his monitoring station. Every system that's been exposed to our cultural broadcasts over the past months is syncing with the symphony. The Kraxan representatives finally realized something was wrong when their personal communication devices began emitting harmonics that matched the orchestra's music. They stood abruptly, their crystalline forms flickering with patterns that humans now recognized as alarm. What is the meaning of this? Their leader demanded, mathematical language breaking down into discordant patterns. Elena never paused in her playing. The violin's notes soared above the orchestra, carrying command codes that rippled through the Kraxan's quantum network. Across Earth, other orchestras maintained perfect synchronization, their combined frequencies weaving a web of control through the aliens' technology. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her voice carrying over the music. You thought our art was weakness, our music mere sound, our emotions a flaw to be corrected. Today, you learn that humanity's greatest strength lies in what your logic cannot comprehend. Above them, the Kraxan fleet continued its involuntary dance across the stars, their mighty ships now instruments in humanity's symphony of retribution. The empire that had dismissed human culture as irrelevant was about to discover that they had underestimated the power of art itself. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the lunar observation deck, watching Earth's atmosphere shimmer with unprecedented displays of quantum energy. The Kraxan fleet moved through complex patterns, their crystalline hulls creating cascading waves of light that rivaled the ancient auroras they had unknowingly mimicked. Their central command is requesting emergency communication. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. They're cycling through every frequency they know, trying to regain control of their ships. Let them watch a little longer, Sarah replied, her eyes fixed on the spectacle above Earth. Let them understand exactly what they're dealing with. Dr. Elena Rossi's voice came through the command channel, accompanied by the soaring notes of her violin. Phase 2 is ready, Captain. The Symphony of Liberation is about to reveal its final movement. In the Sydney Opera House, Elena had traded her formal performance attire for a neural interface suit. Her violin, now connected directly to the quantum transmission network, sang with frequencies that penetrated the very fabric of space-time. The Kraxan's most sophisticated technology danced to her melody. Their backup systems are attempting to initiate emergency protocols, Dr. Martinez reported from his station in the Martian facility. But they can't break free from our resonance patterns. Every override attempt just adds another layer to our symphony. The Kraxan fleet, once arranged in their mathematically perfect defensive formations, now moved like schools of bioluminescent fish through Earth's orbit. Their attempts to resist only made the patterns more complex, more beautiful. Humanity had turned their mighty armada into an art installation visible from every human colony in the solar system. Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council, Rodriguez announced. They're requesting an explanation of our quantum control techniques. Several member species are reporting similar resonance patterns appearing in their Kraxan-based technology. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Put them through to Admiral Chen. I believe my mother has prepared a suitable response for the Council. On Earth's surface, in concert halls across the globe, orchestras continued their synchronized performance. But now they weren't just controlling the Kraxan fleet. They were rewriting the very principles of quantum physics that the logical species had taken for granted. Final analysis confirmed. Dr. Martinez's voice held a note of triumph. The ancient civilization the Kraxan inherited this technology from. They weren't scientists in the conventional sense. They were artists. Their quantum manipulation was based on universal harmonies that only humans, with our appreciation for music and emotional resonance, could fully comprehend. The Kraxan ship's crystalline structures began to pulse with colors that their builders had never imagined possible. Each vessel became a note in humanity's grand composition, their quantum cores resonating with frequencies that bridged the gap between science and art. Their high command is evacuating their observation pods, Rodriguez reported. They're requesting immediate withdrawal of all forces from Earth space. Sarah watched as the mighty Kraxan warships, now under complete human control, assembled into a new formation. In perfect synchronization, they began to trace patterns of light across the sky. Not in the rigid mathematical sequences the Kraxan preferred, but in sweeping artistic movements that told the story of humanity's rise from the ashes of their lost colonies. Send a message to all Kraxan commands, Sarah ordered. Tell them that humanity has not just mastered their technology. We've awakened its true potential. The age of pure logic is over. It's time for the galaxy to remember that the most advanced science is indistinguishable from art. Above Earth, the captured Kraxan fleet continued its dance, each ship a brushstroke in humanity's canvas of stars. The empire that had fought to contain humanity's emotional nature had instead unleashed a revolution that would reshape the understanding of quantum physics throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Chen stepped onto the speaking platform. Around her, representatives from 1,000 species waited to hear humanity's terms. The Kraxan delegation, their crystalline forms dulled with what humans now recognized as uncertainty, stood directly before her. 3 months ago, Admiral Chen began. The Kraxan Empire destroyed 3 human colonies, claiming our emotions made us too unpredictable to exist in their ordered galaxy. Today, we could use their own technology to eliminate their entire civilization. The chamber's quantum translators carried her words to every species present. Sarah Chen, standing at her mother's side, noticed how the translator's harmonics now carried subtle traces of human musical patterns, an unexpected side effect of their victory. But that is not humanity's way, Admiral Chen continued. We did not master the quantum harmonics of the universe to destroy, but to create, to understand, to transform. Dr. Elena Rossi stepped forward, her violin in hand. The Kraxan representatives tensed, their recent memory of human music's power still fresh. But instead of the symphony of liberation, Elena played a simple lullaby. The Kraxan ships in orbit above the Council world moved in gentle patterns, demonstrating humanity's continued control. Our terms are simple, Admiral Chen declared. First, the Kraxan Empire will be reorganized. Not destroyed, but transformed. Your rigid hierarchy will be replaced with a system that balances logic with intuition, calculation with creativity. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing plans for the reconstruction of the destroyed human colonies. Second, the resources of the former empire will be directed toward rebuilding what was lost. Not just structures, but communities. Not just cities, but culture. Dr. James Martinez stepped up next, activating a quantum interface that displayed educational programs. Third, and most importantly, we will establish the Galactic Institute of Harmonic Sciences. Here, your children will learn alongside ours. They will discover that the universe operates not through pure logic or pure emotion, but through their perfect balance. The Craxan leader, designated primary calculator, moved forward. You would teach our offspring to feel. We would teach them to understand. Alina replied, drawing a single pure note from her violin. The quantum systems throughout the chamber resonated in response. Your species inherited incredible technology, but never understood its true nature. The ancient civilization you learned from wasn't building machines. They were composing symphonies of reality itself. Sarah took her turn at the platform. Every Craxan child will have the opportunity to learn music, art, and dance alongside quantum mechanics. Every human child will study logic and mathematics alongside creative expression. Together, we will advance further than either of our species could alone. The chamber erupted in discussion as species across the galaxy recognized the implications. The Craxan's technological superiority had shaped galactic politics for centuries. Now, humanity offered a new path, one that promised advancement through harmony rather than dominance. We have seen what pure logic leads to, Admiral Chen concluded. We have also seen the power of emotion tempered by reason. The choice before you was simple. Continue the old way of division, or join us in composing the future. She gestured to Alina, who began to play again. This time, the music carried hope rather than retribution. The quantum fields around them danced with new patterns, not human, not Craxan, but something entirely new. The primary calculator stepped forward, its crystalline form catching the light in ways that seemed almost organic. We accept your terms. Teach us to understand the music. As the council chamber filled with the sound of Alina's violin, Sarah watched the Craxan delegates begin to sway slightly, unconsciously moving to the rhythm. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but it represented the first steps of an empire learning to dance. 5 years had passed since the day humanity changed the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the newly rebuilt New Eden colony, watching as ships arrived for the graduation ceremony of the first class of the Galactic Institute of Harmonic Sciences. The vessels moved through space with a grace that would have been impossible in the old days of pure Craxan logic. Each ship's quantum drive sang in harmony with the others, their combined movements creating patterns of light that turned the approach to New Eden into an ever-changing art exhibition. Hard to believe this was all ruins 5 years ago, Dr. Alina Rossi said, joining Sarah at the window. Her violin case hung at her side. She never went anywhere without it these days, not since it had become both a scientific instrument and a symbol of humanity's understanding of the universe. The memorial garden is particularly beautiful, Sarah replied, gesturing to the crystalline structures that housed the names of those lost in the attack. The crystals, grown using harmonically modified Craxan technology, hummed with a constant, gentle melody, a reminder that turned grief into art. First graduates are assembling in the main hall, Dr. James Martinez announced through the comm system. You both should see this. They made their way to the grand ceremonial chamber, where hundreds of beings gathered, humans, Craxan, and representatives from dozens of other species. At the center of the room, a group of young graduates prepared to demonstrate their final projects. A young Craxan, their crystalline form shimmering with colors that would have been considered chaotic by their ancestors' standards, stepped forward with a human partner. Together, they activated a quantum field that filled the room with light and sound. Our thesis, the human student began, demonstrates the unified principles of harmonic quantum mechanics through a combination of mathematical precision and artistic interpretation. The Craxon student continued, their voice carrying an emotional resonance that would have been impossible 5 years ago. By applying both logical analysis and creative intuition, we have discovered new applications of quantum harmonics that neither of our species could have achieved alone. Their presentation transformed the room into a living symphony of light and energy. Mathematical equations danced with musical notes, each reinforcing the other, creating patterns that advanced both science and art. The audience watched in wonder as new possibilities unfolded before them. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, stood to address the graduates. 5 years ago, we faced a choice between vengeance and transformation. Today, we see the fruits of choosing harmony over hatred. She gestured to where the former primary calculators sat, their crystalline form now decorated with sweeping artistic patterns. They had become one of the strongest advocates for the integration of art and science, their logical mind enriched by their growing understanding of emotion and creativity. The universe, Admiral Chen continued, is neither purely logical nor purely emotional. It is a grand symphony where every note, every pause, every harmony and discord serves a purpose. Our task is not to impose order or embrace chaos, but to find the beauty in their dance. Sarah watched as Elena stepped forward, raising her violin. Around her, Craxon students lifted crystalline instruments they had grown themselves, each one a unique fusion of technology and art. Human students took their places at quantum interfaces designed to translate movement and emotion into energy and light. The music began, not the symphony of liberation that had brought an empire to its knees, but a new composition. Created collectively by the graduating class, it represented everything they had learned about combining the strengths of their different species. As the performance filled the hall with impossible colors and harmonies, Sarah thought about the long journey from that terrible day of destruction to this moment of creation. The Craxon Empire had wanted to contain humanity's emotions, never realizing that those same emotions would transform not just their empire, but the entire galaxy's understanding of existence itself. The music soared, and with it, the future took flight. Not in straight lines or perfect circles, but in beautiful, unpredictable patterns that danced among the stars.